This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
Welcome into the FNIA podcast presented by Applebee's. You know the great Tony Dungy, the great Rodney Harrison, and we are talking some football starting with Davante Adams. So Davante, gentlemen, he wants out. He wants out of Las Vegas. First thought, why do you think this might be and where the heck should he end up? Coach, I'll start with you.
Well, probably because he doesn't have a great quarterback with him. He's played a bunch of his career with Aaron Rodgers, then he played with Derek Carr, and now it's not quite the same. I know what receivers are like. They want the ball. They think they're open all the time, Rod, and I'm sure he's feeling like, hey, I'm open and they're getting me the ball.
I'm surprised it took this long, Coach. And you think about just a short period of time that he's been there, he's had 6 different quarterbacks. He's had a lot of different quarterbacks. And if I'm him, I'm looking, there's 2 teams that I'm looking at. I'm looking at possibly the Washington Commanders. I would love to go there with a young quarterback, and the Baltimore Ravens. I think he makes them instantly the best team in the AFC. You think about getting a big play receiver like him with those tight ends, that run game, Lamar Jackson. Coach, I think that move makes them the best team in the NFL, period.
Yeah, Baltimore would be very interesting because the one thing, you go to an offense like that, you are going to get man-to-man coverage. They can't afford to double you and use the safety over the top of you because they got to deal with that running game in Lamar. So that would make sense. But if I'm the Vegas Raiders, I don't think I'm trading them to Baltimore.
Yeah.
I mean, if you can get some fair compensation for him, why not? You're not going to win. You're not going to win or go to the playoffs with this guy regardless. I mean, if it's me and I'm Antonio Pierce, he's a former player. He understands the situation. Try to get maybe a 2nd or 3rd round pick for him if you can and ship him off. But I don't think he's going to make that big of an impact with the Jets. Yes, they get another receiver, but they still need help on the offensive line. And if I'm him, I'm trying to win a Super Bowl. And the quickest way for me to win a Super Bowl is to join the Baltimore Ravens, period. There's no other team that I feel like he fits better with than Baltimore. And then that's a place, too, where once he goes there, he's not worried about catching 100 passes. He just wants to be a leader and a guy that can be very productive. When they brought Odell Beckham in there, he's going to be a lot better than what Odell Beckham was. I just think that he can still play at a high level, and we're not giving him a lot of credit because he plays with the Raiders and he doesn't have a really good quarterback. But this young man, I mean, he can still play at a high level, Coach.
Oh, I think he'd be dynamic. Well, with that in mind, let me ask you this. If you're the Raiders and the Chiefs call you and they tell you they'll give you 2 number 1 picks for Davante, would you send him to Kansas City right now?
I'll send him to Kansas City for 1 number 1 pick. Absolutely, because you're not going to – absolutely I would, because I'm looking to continue to build my team. You're not going to beat the Chiefs this year if you're the Raiders. You're not going to go anywhere far if you're the Raiders. So now you have to look at it as a long-term investment, and you continue to build your team. Good question, Coach.
Almost 32 years old, potential out in his contract after this year. So that would be a 3-year, $67 million deal if you did end it or if you tore it up and you did something new. Or it could be a 5-year, $140 million contract, which is what he originally signed. Now, since the wide receiver money has only been a rocket ship, it's gone up, up, up. So you got to imagine he's wanting some piece of that. But at almost 32 years old, does the team that trades for him need to be prepared to do one of these big kind of deals? Or how do you do that?
No. When you request to get traded at this point in time in your career, toward the latter part of your career, when you've already made well over $100 million, you've already done a bunch of things, he should be worried about winning a Super Bowl. So for me, I would go and say, hey, I would love to go to the Baltimore Ravens. If you want to rip up this new deal and I'll take a little less because I want to play with Lamar. I want to be able to play with a good defense and a great head coach. I'll take a little bit less. So instead of making $25 million a year, maybe I'll take $20 million a year. But anything I have to do to rework my contract to put me in the best position to win the Super Bowl, and that's with the Baltimore Ravens, Jack.
I just offense that's not throwing it like that, though, Coach. I mean, I get the whole winning thing, but this dude wants the ball too.
Well, that's all right, though. I'm kind of with Rodney. He's caught his passes. He's demonstrated he's one of the best in the league. go win a Super Bowl. Go get your ring. And, yeah, Baltimore might be the best spot to do that.
Okay. All right. I like it. Let's get on down to then who is eating good in the neighborhood, presented by Applebee's. This is going to be the biggest surprise through 4 weeks. And Hot Rod Rodney Harrison gets to go first. Biggest surprise, Rod.
My biggest surprise. Who's my biggest surprise? It would be the Washington Commanders. I'm sorry, the Washington Commanders. I got a chance to go back and watch some tape on them. And it's not just Jaden Daniels. It's not just him, going out there. They've done a really good job of putting great people around him. The general manager, Adam Peters, I mean, this is a good guy, smart, learned a lot from John Lynch. Dan Quinn is a heck of a head coach. Really good guy. But also you start to look on the defensive side of the ball, what they've done. They got those two big guys in the interior of that defense. Bobby Wagner is a terrific leader at linebacker. They got Jeremy Chin, who I think is just an outstanding player, kind of reminds you of Kyle Hamilton. So on the defensive side of the ball, Coach, they've really built up the defense. They've added some guys, not a ton of big names, but guys that play with passion and guys that believe in the system.
Yeah, I almost went that way too. They have been great, but my big surprise pick has to be the Minnesota Vikings. Everybody was talking about Detroit. This is Detroit's year for the Super Bowl. Well, Green Bay was in the playoffs last year. Jordan Love's going to be better. Chicago had the number 1 pick. They're going to be better. Minnesota was kind of the forgotten team in that division. And then J.J. McCarthy, they went out and drafted him, and he gets hurt. Oh, no. Well, that's it. We're done. I don't think anybody in their right mind expected Sam Darnold to come out and light things up, lead the league in touchdown passes. We thought their defense would be okay, but for what their offense is doing, it's been amazing to me.
And Coach, you look at the Minnesota Vikings, it's a complete team. Defensively, they got one of the top defenses in the league, and then offensively, you kind of start thinking of Justin Jefferson. You start thinking about Justin Jefferson, and you don't think about Naylor and all the other weapons that they have. 2 good running backs, Sam Darnold, like you talked about, and that defense just continues with all those veteran players to create turnovers and just cause havoc. Brian Flores, and you always talk about Kevin O'Connell and the job that he's done, not just on the offensive side of the ball, but just the total team and what he's been able to do. To me, Coach, I think you're right, and you've said this before, I think he's Coach of the Year at this point in time right now.
They have been outstanding, and Aaron Jones has given them a big lift. Just being able to run the football and be balanced, and they're playing very, very effective football right now. Yeah.
All right, you guys took a couple of first-round draft picks there. I'm going to take Tampa. I'm going to go biggest surprise.
You're surprised at Tampa?
I'm going with Baker Mayfield. I mean, people kind of sent this dude off, right? I mean, Cleveland, they're like, we're done with them. LA, we're done with them. Carolina, we're done with them. And he finds this home in Tampa. He's having a Disneyland level of fun, He's winning games, and he's having fun like Tom Brady would be having at Disneyland. Like, he just looks like a kid out there to me, playing almost high school football, and his teammates look the same way. It's like football is fun again. It doesn't look like a job. And when you start winning and getting on a roll, and we know Baker's fire and personality, I don't think this is a flash in the pan. I think we're going to see the Bucs continue on this trend even into the playoffs.
No, you're right, Jack. I live down here, and this whole offseason, they've been energized. Mike Evans is looking at a new contract, and the first thing he asks is Baker going to be back? If he's our quarterback, I want to be here. I'll sign. The offensive linemen love this guy, and that unity and that togetherness is what's happening, and it's really been great to watch.
Coach, I agree with you. Baker Mayfield has been fantastic for these guys in the locker room. And even before the playoff game last year when we had him, I talked to a bunch of guys, and all they could do is rant and rave about Baker Mayfield, his presence in the locker room, his leadership, his toughness, everything that he brings. And then you just sit down and you talk to him. You see just how passionate he is, how smart he is, how engaged he is. And I'm like, man, I just want to be your friend because, you're such a good guy, and he's so intense with football, man. I just love the guy, and just really happy that he's doing well because the kid is a dog. He is a straight dog, Jack.
He is. I like that description. All right, the biggest disappointment through 4 weeks, we go back to Rodney. Biggest disappointment.
I was going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and no question about it, but I got to go with your Cincinnati Bengals, man. I don't like all the trash talking. This is an organization that has struggled for so many years, Jack, and then they get, they bring in the head coach, they get the right players, and they end up going to the Super Bowl, winning a bunch of games, and now all of a sudden you get this young crop of defensive players that are talking trash, and I just don't think it makes any sense. Just shut up and play football. And I'm just surprised that Lou Anarumo, he's a good defensive coordinator. He needs to get control of his crew back there so they can focus on football and not talking trash.
Yeah, they were high on my list too. You just expect more from them. Thinking, is Joe Burrow healthy? If he's not, maybe they'll have a tough time. But he's come out and played well, and they're not winning. And they've got a tough game this week too with Baltimore. And you'd hate to see them go to 1-4. This is, to me, a do or die game for them. I'm going to go with the original team you said there, Rodney, the Jacksonville Jags. You draft Trevor Lawrence, number one. Generational quarterback, supposedly. And I love Trevor Lawrence. I think he is that. You put some people around him, get him some weapons. Defensively, they've got some young leaders. And I just expected more than this. We saw them last week, and it didn't even look like they put up a fight. I just think that's got to be a major, major disappointment right now, the way that Jacksonville's playing.
No question, Coach. You talk about them adding more talent, Brian Thomas, Gabe Davis, and your offense has gotten worse. You can't put up points. Your defense is supposed to take the next step, and your defense has been disappointing. They've been average on defense, and it's just, you got to look at the head coach. And is his message, Doug Peterson, is his message getting across? Is he motivating these guys? Because I look at Trevor Lawrence, and that's a hefty, hefty investment, over $50 million a year. He's just not getting it done.
Yeah, I might go biggest disappointment, a 2-2 team in Philadelphia. I just thought Philadelphia would maybe fix some of that. We saw it last year. Remember the end of last year? It was like the wheels were slowly falling off. The tires were deflating. It just didn't have the same fire. It wasn't a team that was winning the line of scrimmage and doing the things we're used to seeing Philly do. And really, Hurts has just not looked the same. He hasn't felt the same to me since he was, arguably the best player on the field in that Super Bowl, lighting it up. I'm just wondering what's going on right now with Philly, because they look like a team after Tampa just blew them out, where it could go bad to worse. I don't know how they fix this thing, but it needs to happen fast, I think, for Sirianni and company.
And, Jack, we had them opening night, and I was up in Philadelphia interviewing Coach Sirianni, and I was at practice, and all you heard was the energy and the enthusiasm. All the defensive guys, we love this new system. Offensive players, we got to get back to our identity, and Saquon's fantastic. You wait till you see this guy. He's going to be just lights out in this offense. And there was so much enthusiasm and energy and optimism. And you're right, it just hasn't generated on the field.
Yeah, you talk about the defensive side of the ball, and you look at Vic Fangio, the defense is bend but don't break, Coach. And that's kind of their philosophy. But you can't have a bend but don't break defense if you're not getting pass rush. And you look at their pass rush, their defensive tackles are leading in sacks. Their defensive ends have been really average. They haven't been able to get after the quarterback. And then you talk about Bryce Huff, your prize free agent. He's been a huge disappointment. And, your best pass rushers are 36-year-old Brandon Graham. So it affects the secondary. Those guys can't play aggressive because they don't have trust in their front four to be able to get to the quarterback. So it takes away their aggressiveness. So they're back there guessing and trying to play safe. And it just has a total trickle down effect. So when we look at this defense, it starts up front. And for the life of me, I don't understand. How do you not sign Hassan Reddick? How do you not sign him? And you let a guy like that go and walk right out the door?
They're feeling it.
You look at their Super Bowl year. They were dominant at the line of scrimmage. They had the best offensive line in football, big horses that just controlled the offensive line every single game. And then you had that defensive front with Reddick and Fletcher Cox and Graham. And they were dominant up front. And now we're not seeing that.
Yeah, you're right.
Hey, Jack, one last point. Jack, one last point you make about Jalen Hurts. And when you watch Jalen Hurts, Coach, and I want you to pay attention to this. Jalen Hurts doesn't play with a sense of urgency. To me, I watch him, you go back and watch him a couple games, and he just plays so casually. It's him. He's back there. He kind of back paddles. He doesn't see the blitz. He doesn't recognize the blitz. He has no idea where the blitz is coming from. It's just too casual. And what happens is when he has his number one and number two receivers and they win early at the line of scrimmage, he can get rid of the ball and he does a good job. But when he has to hold it and he has to go through his progression, he struggles, Coach, and teams are like they did last year. They're coming after him. They're blitzing him. They're putting pressure on him. They're showing him different looks, and they're treating him like he's a young quarterback.
I think you're right. And that, to me, is the big thing. And they did talk about that when I was up there. Hey, at the end of last year, everybody blitzed us. They wanted to get the ball out of Jalen's hands. We've got to have an answer for it. They haven't found that answer yet.
Yeah, Rod, you just mentioned A.J. Brown not being there. I think that's been big just with him being banged up. They got the early bye week, though. Early bye week, we think, is that a good thing or a bad thing for the Eagles, now 2-2 coming off getting blown out against the Bucs?
I think it's good for them. I think they need it. Go ahead, Rod.
No, I was going to agree with you, Coach. I was going to say, really, they need more than a week to fix everything that's going wrong with them. But to me, this is a perfect opportunity for them to kind of reevaluate. And I think, number one, reevaluate what they do from a coaching perspective. And Sirianni needs to go over a lot of decisions with his staff that they make and some of the decisions that they made. Of course, you're going to continue to, reevaluate the players, but I think they have to evaluate the coaching staff first and foremost, Coach, because, that's where it starts. It starts at the top.
Yeah, I agree. You have a new offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Kellen, here's what we've got to do. This is what we did well the first 4 weeks. We've got to get Saquon Barkley established that he is going to be the focal point of this offense. We've got to get Jahan Dotson going as that third receiver and get some stuff in for him, and then hopefully get A.J. Brown healthy. And then another week of just dialing in on the defensive philosophy. All those guys said they liked their new coaching staff, the new style, and what Coach Fangio is bringing, but it isn't translating on the field. So let's go back to training camp. None of these guys played in the preseason. Get back to that mentality of let's get our basics, our fundamentals down, and let's go the second half of the season after the bye.
Mm-hmm. And also, I look at a guy like C.J. Gardner-Johnson, who was, we were excited about seeing him come over, and he hasn't been a difference maker. Matter of fact, he's been a liability. He's gotten beat almost every game, that he's played. So, you need guys on the defensive side of the ball, a lot of those veteran players stepping up, being able to make those plays.
Yeah, still one of the leaders in the league in trash talking, but the production maybe not the same as we're used to seeing. The defensive rank for Philly right now, 29th they are. 365 yards per game. That's what they're giving up. So it gets us to, where's the defense? Because we saw this with Detroit as well. They gave up 518 yards, 38 first downs, and they still were able to beat Seattle. Is this a league-wide thing, or what are we thinking with some of the defense we've seen so far?
It is. I really think that, when you played and when I coached, defenses were always ahead at the beginning of the year. You were just physically better. Offenses caught up, and then second half of the year, they started moving the ball. But now I think because of the way the practices are dictated, offense can do so much more in walkthroughs and things like that. Quarterbacks take their guys and they go off to these camps and they work, and the defense can't get going early enough. So I think the defenses will catch up, but right now the offense is definitely ahead of the defense.
And Coach, that's a big part of why we yell and scream so much about playing in the preseason, because you have an opportunity to play with your guys and communicate and talk and, understand where I'm fitting compared to where you're fitting and all those different things. It's just so important to get that experience and just be out there with your teammates.
Yeah. We should mention it helps if your defense is struggling that your quarterback had a literal perfect game. I can't remember last time, like Jared Goff, no incompletions. Probably my favorite part, though, was even down to the very last throw of the game, they were still being aggressive. They weren't protecting that perfect game at all. He had that touchdown that was a toe tapper in the end zone. So they stayed aggressive to the very last throw, and he finished that thing off. Pretty amazing game by Goff. When you see what Detroit can do balancing the football and using Goff in that way.
Just really some outstanding offense both ways. I've never seen a game like that. I've never seen a team just move up and down the field like Seattle did and end up getting blown out. It's just it's an offensive foray right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
it was.
Jack, you think about
Go ahead, bro.
hey Jack, you think about Detroit too, and coach, they can really play offensively any game you want to play. They can get in 4 or 5 wides, and they can do a shootout, or they can play bully ball, which what we love to see them do, use that big offensive line and just run the football. So really Detroit and Ben Johnson, they've set themselves up offensively where they can, if you want to get in a shootout, they can get in the shootout with you. But if they want to run the ball 35 times and play physical, they can do that too. And to see Jameson Williams, really start to come out and play with confidence and give them that big play threat down the field, this offense could be really dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys have been around some awesome quarterbacks. Have you guys ever seen a perfect game before?
No.
When you win, it's a perfect game.
Amen to that. Hey, Jaden Daniels, this has been damn near a perfect start to a rookie season. 82.1% of his passes he's completing. He's running the ball like he's Lamar Jackson. He's been phenomenal to start. Is this sustainable, do you think, for Daniels, or how do you guys see this?
I don't know if they can sustain it at this level, but I think Cliff Kingsbury, their offensive coordinator, has done a tremendous job. What he did was say, here's what Jaden Daniels does well. Here's the system he's been used to running in college. Rather than have him learn what I do, I'm going to do what he does well. And he is so comfortable out there right now. And, people are commenting on, well, this is a college offense. It's a simple offense, but it's effective, and it's what Jaden Daniels does. And, man, he looks so smooth and comfortable and relaxed out there, Rodney. It's been amazing.
And, Coach, I'm really excited that he had an opportunity to go to a organization with new ownership. You didn't want that. I didn't want him to go anywhere where it's a dark cloud over there, a lot of negativity. I mean, this is a brand new field, new attitude, good people within the organization. Like I talked about, I like Dan Quinn. I think he's just a great person. And Adam Peters, the general manager, and my former teammate, Kingsbury, doing a really good job with this kid. But when you watch him play, Coach, he looks so cool and so calm. That offensive line does a good job giving him protection. He's just smooth, man. It almost looks like he's almost smoother than C.J. Stroud when C.J. Stroud was a rookie. He has fun. He looks relaxed. He doesn't feel like he's rushed. It just seems like everything is slowed down. I mean, to see C.J. Stroud and see this young man in back-to-back drafts and the way they carry themselves as rookie quarterbacks in the National Football League coaching, we know how hard it is to play, to gain the trust of your teammates, to do all those things, to come in and win games. Look at the negative cloud that was over the Washington Commanders' heads for so many years, and this kid has come in and completely changed the outlook. I just think it's tremendous, man. And it just shows you when you have a good young quarterback that's a good person that works hard and he's a tremendous leader, it affects everybody in the locker room.
No, he has made a difference. We saw CJ do it last year. But, Jack, we talked about this a little bit last week. This kid started, I think, 55 games in college football, in the Pac-12, in the SEC, playing against top competition and doing it well. So this isn't like a guy who's coming in and just, I'm trying to learn things. He's had a lot of experience playing, and it's making a difference.
Does it look like it's easier for rookie quarterbacks now? I mean, I remember Peyton Manning throwing about 72 interceptions. Why does it feel like is it the running element? Is it the college has gotten more advanced? Is it that they're keeping the college offense in the NFL? Why does it look easier now for the rooks?
Not for everybody. Not for every rookie quarterback.
No, just for a couple guys.
That's a good point. We've seen C.J. Stroud light it up last year and Daniels back-to-back years, though.
Yep. But we've seen some of the other quarterbacks struggle. And wasn't it just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about all these young quarterbacks? They're struggling. They hadn't put up any touchdown passes. They're learning as they go. Yeah.
Fair enough. Balance me out, Coach. All right, we got Sunday Night Football. Cowboys at Steelers, a matchup Coach Dungy knows well. Ring the man, ring him. 2-2 are the Cowboys. Steelers are 3-1. Thoughts off the top? How do we see this matchup?
I'm looking at the line of scrimmage, Rodney. I think whoever controls it is going to win. Neither one of these teams has run the ball the way they want to, but controlling the line of scrimmage, pass protection, and which defensive line can dominate, I think that's going to tell the story.
Yeah, Coach, you talk about the defensive line and the Cowboys against the Baltimore Ravens. I looked at Adiki Zua. I looked at Mozzie Smith. Those guys got completely bullied and pushed around on the line of scrimmage. They come back against the Giants. They say, okay, we're going to focus. We're going to hone in, and we're going to really work hard. And Mozzie Smith looked like he was an all-pro defensive tackle. It's just a matter of them focusing in on every single play and not taking anything for granted. But I agree with you, Coach. It starts at the line of scrimmage.
And those big guys you mentioned, they're going to have to do the job because no DeMarcus Lawrence for sure, probably not Micah Parsons. So your fast chase down guys aren't going to be there. The big men are going to have to take over and take control.
Which of these teams is more likely to buy?
Sometimes when you don't – hold on, Jack. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Sometimes when you don't have those starters, because those starters have so much freedom, and a lot of times you can't always depend on DeMarcus Lawrence or what's his name, number 11?
Micah
Parsons. Sorry, I forget his name. Micah Parsons, to be in the right place. So when you have new guys come in, a lot of times they do everything perfectly for you. They're going to make sure they hold the edge. They're going to make sure they shed the blocks and do everything perfect for you. I'm not saying they're going to be better. It's going to definitely be a different look. And it's always a good thing when you don't have Micah Parsons chasing you around. But those young guys, they should come in and try to do the right thing for Zimmer and play extremely hard for him.
It's funny you mentioned that.
Coach. I forgot his name.
No. It's funny you mentioned that. Young guys having to step up, and sometimes they come in and play harder. 1977, Cowboys against the Steelers. All-pro safety man Donnie Shell's hurt. He can't go. A young defensive back gets a little more playing time. A young rookie, and he picks off Roger Staubach to ice the game because just what Rodney's saying, the young guy comes in and he's determined and he's ready to go.
Hey, that's what it's all about.
Who's that young guy?
Dungy, I don't know, young rookie.
DD, baby. Hey, let me ask you guys this. So the Cowboys, they're 2-2, a little bit of a mystery. They've looked horrible at times. We saw them look good against the Giants. Steelers, undefeated, and then we saw them kind of lay an egg a little bit this past week. So it's two teams that are kind of, we don't know exactly how real are they. If you had to buy one of these two teams right now, who would you buy?
I think there's question marks on both groups. Dallas, to me, it's like Buffalo. Okay, if you get in this fast-paced game and it's high scoring and your offense is moving and you're rushing the passer, they look really, really good. Can they stick in there when somebody's trying to bloody their nose and bang them up? That's what I want to see from Dallas. Pittsburgh, their defense is going to have to carry them. Their quarterback play has to be good and sound. Justin Fields has done some outstanding things, but I want to see if Justin Fields can make the ordinary plays. Can you just get the snap? Can you hit the guy on 3rd and 5 when we need it, when he's open? Can you read the defenses and get it to the right place? Question marks on both sides. So I think our game tonight is Sunday night is going to say a lot about where these two teams are.
Yeah, and I think the Cowboys are still trying to get their identity. I think the Steelers actually know who they are. They know they're a team that it's not going to look pretty offensively. Justin Fields, you got to roll him out. He's going to run around and make some circus plays. He's going to pick up 50, 60 yards a game just rushing the ball. They don't have a lot of great wide receivers. They depend on their defense to create turnovers, to create negative plays, and it's just what it is. And they're going to play hard. They're going to play hard and smart for Mike Tomlin. That's what they do. It's not going to be anything fancy. You're not going to walk away overly impressed with the Pittsburgh Steelers on the offensive side of the ball, but you will know that you've been in a football game and say those guys were physical. And you got TJ Watt and Cameron Hayward and those guys, they're going to be ready on Sunday.
Yep. All right, other key games that we're looking at. Ravens at Bengals. Coach Dungy, you mentioned that one. One of those games that's back against the wall if you're Cincinnati. Do you think they can do it?
It really is.
Ravens, how good we just saw them look Sunday night.
They can. This is an AFC North game. So throughout the standings, all that, these two teams know each other. They know how to play. They've got that dislike for each other. Cincinnati needs to show up, and they need to win this game if they want to get back in the race. Baltimore, who are you? Are you the team that we saw last week just dominate and smash the ball? If you do that, you're going to be tough to beat.
I think Baltimore will be that, Coach. I think they found their identity. I think they realize that they're a tough, just a bad bunch of dudes. And if they play a certain way, it's not going to be many teams that can even stay on the field with them when they're playing this physical type of game. But once again, if Todd Monken makes it all about, Lamar versus Joe Burrow, then it's going to be trouble for him, because Joe can shoot it out with anybody. He's proven that against Patrick Mahomes, and I think he's done it against Lamar as well.
Yeah, I almost think that's going to be the way the Bengals are going to have to win this year. It's like they're just going to have to score more points than them, because they're not stopping people. They're really not stopping the run great. They're not stopping the pass. They're not rushing the passer very well. Hendrickson's been banged up in and out of the lineup. Sam Hubbard's not really a pass rusher. They took Miles Murphy as that first-round pick to give them that extra guy along with Hendrickson to provide the pass rush, and he hasn't really been out there for a couple of years now. And so those problems have caught up to Cincinnati. Now it's like, can Joe Burrow just outduel you? And if he can't, they might be in trouble. Yeah. All right, cool. Let's get to the other one. Bills, Texans, 2-3-1 teams. This could be a little revenge game for Stephon Diggs.
that is going to be the headline for sure. But to me, it's Buffalo. Can you get back on the right track? And big thing that just came out, Von Miller not being there. This would be a Von Miller game. This is when they need him. This is when, get after C.J. Stroud, rush the passer. Not having that is going to hurt them. But I think Buffalo's pride is a little wounded. I expect to see the Bills Mafia show up this week.
But, I look at these two teams in the AFC and I say these are two good teams. We got a chance to see them up close and personal. But I still think the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens are just on a different level than both these teams. I look at the Houston Texans. The defense has kind of been up and down. At times they give up a lot of big plays. I look at the Bills, and I don't really know what to think about the Bills, because they were rolling, and then they end up going with the Baltimore Ravens, these bullies, and they just get absolutely manhandled. But I like the Texans in this game. I think the Texans win this game. Yeah.
So the Bills, they beat Arizona, Miami, and Jacksonville. And a little revisionist history, you look at the 3 wins, you go, those 3 teams are not exactly looking so good. But then you saw what happened with them and with the Baltimore Ravens. But the Ravens, that was a buzzsaw. I mean, you were walking in there, that team, I think a lot of teams were going to step on the field into that fist fight and get their butts whooped. Don't you think, the way the Baltimore played Sunday night?
No, absolutely. And that's where, to me, Buffalo is right now. We've got to establish who we are. We're going to a division leader. We're on the road. People may be doubting us a little bit. We've got to go in and get it. Now, on the other side, you've got Stephon Diggs, who's here to we're all eating and we're different now. We're better. That Stephon's not here. I think we know he's going to want to have a big game.
I always say, hey, I would rather have a number 1 receiver than just have 3 regular guys. And it's nothing like a Stephon Diggs if you're Josh Allen.
Amen to that. So there's some good matchups. We'll look forward to those. Ravens, Bengals, Bills, Texans, and, of course, the Sunday night with the Steelers in Dallas. Gentlemen, always great to see you, especially in the middle of the week. A little extra hang time. We'll see you on Sunday night. We'll see you out there in Pittsburgh. Appreciate it.
Can't wait, Jack.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.